Everyone in the circle knew that Lucien Waldorf, president of the Waldorf Group, was ruthless and decisive in business. In his private life, he was famously indifferent, cold, and distant from women. No woman dared step within 3 meters of him. Until that fateful gala, where he met Christina. He fell for her at first sight, and began pursuing her relentlessly. He showered her with mansions, luxury cars, and jewelry. Fireworks lit up the sky for 3 nights straight as he declared his love. When she casually mentioned craving a chestnut cake that had been discontinued, he drove through a snowstorm late at night, crossing 3 cities to deliver the still warm dessert to her. But what truly made her accept him was the day her parents died in a car accident. He was in another city at the time, but had abandoned a billion-dollar deal to rush back. When he arrived, disheveled and bloodshot, he pulled her into his arms. "Christina, don't cry. You still have me. I'll always be by your side." Looking into his eyes, so full of love, her heart skipped a beat. "He's the one for me." That's what she told herself. But the man who had once loved her so wholeheartedly had succumbed to temptation 3 months ago. He had tangled himself with his best friend's sister, who had been staying in their home. Traces of their affair stained the sofa, the kitchen, and their bed. Lucien thought he had hidden it well, but he forgot. There were no secrets that can't escape the cracks. The moment Christina learned the truth, she felt pain, despair, and disbelief. But in the end, she accepted the harsh reality and resolved to leave for good. The Waldorf family had a military background spanning 3 generations, and none of them were allowed to leave the country, including Lucien. If she went abroad, he would never be able to find her. Clutching her immigration papers, Christina hailed a cab and headed for Sunset Bay. The moment she stepped into the Waldorf family villa, a musky scent hit her nose. 2 people hanging decorations on the wall turned around at the sound of her entrance. Lucien froze for a second before his gaze softened. He walked over and held Christina's hand. "Baby, why are you dressed so lightly? Aren't you cold? Didn't you say you were meeting your friends? Why are you back so soon? I was preparing a surprise for you." "A surprise?" Christina looked up at him but couldn't help noticing the marks on his neck, hickeys. Her eyelashes trembled as she fought to suppress the ache in her chest. Before she could speak, Vanessa Bain giggled and walked over. "Christina, Lucien really loves you. He's even throwing a grand celebration for your first meeting anniversary." Vanessa paused deliberately before pointing at the mountain of gifts stacked on the sofa. "Look, all of these are presents from him to you." Christina's gaze followed Vanessa's hand, but stopped at the wet stain under the pile of gifts. In that moment, it felt like her world had collapsed. The scent lingering in the air, and the evidence before her eyes confirmed her worst suspicions. Love her? Lucien's so-called love meant preparing gifts for her while indulging in passion with Vanessa on that sofa, so wild that they had left the fabric soaked. No pain could be sharper than this. Lucien, oblivious to her turmoil, placed a necklace around her neck. His voice was tender as he said, "Happy anniversary, baby. I also prepared a candlelit dinner." Christina's body trembled. She shook her head. "I'm not hungry. I don't feel well." Every second spent with him now felt like torture. She had told him from the start. She was a purist when it came to love. She couldn't accept flaws. If he couldn't cherish her, then why did he come into her life at all? Hearing her say she wasn't feeling well, Lucien panicked. He immediately called several private doctors to examine her. Even after they found nothing wrong, he sent his assistant to buy nutritional supplements and personally made her a cup of hot milk and coaxed her to sleep. 4 or 5 exhausting hours later, Christina finally drifted off. In the middle of the night, thirst woke her up. As she opened the bedroom door to get water, she froze. The door to the guest room stood ajar. Moonlight spilled in, illuminating the 2 figures entwined on the bed. "The necklace you gave her costs hundreds of millions, but no matter how long I begged, you wouldn't give it to me." Christina didn't even ask, "And you gave it to her right away." Even after their passion, Vanessa's legs were still wrapped around him, her voice dripping with jealousy. Lucien frowned, pulled away, and lit a cigarette. "Don't forget your place. I told you, I only love Christina. If you want to keep this relationship, it has to stay hidden. If she finds out, you know what'll happen." Vanessa paled. She climbed out of bed and hugged him from behind. I know you love Christina, but I love you too. Can't I be a little jealous? Lucien didn't respond. Instead, he took a necklace identical to Christina's, but in a different color out of the drawer. Don't act so pitiful. I bought one for you too. But you can only wear it in private. If she finds out, this ends immediately. Vanessa's face lit up. She eagerly took the necklace and held it against her hickey-filled neck. Thank you, Lucien. I knew you cared about me. But are you really that afraid of Christina leaving you? He didn't hesitate. Yes. I can't live without her. If she leaves, I'll go insane. Saying that, he pinned her down again. They resumed their affair. The bed creaked with their movements. Vanessa's satisfying sound echoed through the air. Standing at the door, Christina's tears fell like rain. She looked at the wedding photo hanging on the wall, her eyes locked on Lucien's face. Lucien, in 15 days, I'll be waiting to see you go mad. At dawn, Christina was startled awake by a commotion. She opened the door and saw, in the garden of the neighboring villa, a haggard woman clutching a man's shirt with trembling hands. Her voice tore through the morning air. Dirk, I've loved you for 10 whole years and bore you several children. When we got married, you promised to love me forever. It hasn't even been that long, and you dare to keep a mistress behind my back. Despite the early hour, many people had already gathered by the lakeside for their morning walks. The scandalous scene unfolded before them, drawing more curious eyes with each passing second. Dirk, clearly someone of status, noticed the growing crowd. His expression shifted immediately as he grabbed the woman and dragged her toward the villa. What are you making a scene for? I've told you many times, no man in this world can stay completely faithful. Christina stood frozen, unable to look away, until a warm hand gently covered her ears from behind. Christina, don't listen to such filthy words. Without turning, she spoke softly. Tell me, do all men eventually cheat? Lucien stiffened. He turned her around to face him, his eyes unwavering. I can't speak for others, but I won't. Christina, I will love only you for my entire life. Your entire life? She murmured. But life is so long. He pulled her into his arms, his breath warm against her ear. As long as it is, I only want you. She finally laughed, but there was a faint bitterness in her voice. And what if you cheat? What if you betray me? If I betray you, the heavens shall punish me and strike me down with lightning. Hearing those words, with the truth still buried deep inside her, her heart ached. Lucien, you dare swear such a cruel oath? Aren't you afraid it might come true? He chuckled softly. No, because no one knows better than I do how much I love you. If you don't believe me, I'll carve out my heart for you. And if that's still not enough, I'll give you my entire life. Could he really give her his entire life? Then why couldn't he even control his own desires? His body still carried traces of another woman's scent, yet his lips whispered the most tender words. Christina, Lucien, what are you two doing? A voice suddenly broke the silence. They turned and saw Vanessa standing at the door, wearing a red strapless dress. Lucien visibly stiffened. He frowned slightly. Isn't today the weekend? Where are you going dressed like that? The tone was less that of a brother asking a sister, and more that of a jealous husband questioning his wife. Noticing the jealousy in his voice, Vanessa smiled coyly. There's a company mixer tonight, and I'm planning to find myself a boyfriend. I won't be coming home tonight. Lucien's expression darkened instantly, while Vanessa's smile widened. By the way, Christina, do you two have any plans today? Only then did Lucien snap out of it. He tightened his grip on Christina's hand. We're visiting my parents today, he said. Vanessa smiled again. Send them my regards. Then she turned and left. Half an hour later, Lucien drove Christina toward his family's estate. His parents had never liked Christina as a daughter-in-law. They believed she had turned their son into a lovesick fool who nearly lost his life for her. Worse still, after years of marriage, they had no children. Every visit was met with cold stares and sharp words. Lucien knew this and tried to minimize visits, but this time, his mother's declining health left him no choice. As soon as they stepped inside, the cheerful chatter ceased. His parents' faces fell. Seeing their hostility, Lucien bristled. If you treat Christina like this again, we won't come back. His father slammed the table. How dare you? Are you abandoning your parents for a woman? Lucien held Christina's hand tightly and refused to back down. I told you before, Christina is my one true love. I can't even bring myself to raise my voice to her. And yet you treat her like this. Do you want to rip my heart out? If this happens again, I'll consider myself an orphan. No one expected Lucien to be so resolute. The living room fell into a suffocating silence. Yet, as Christina looked at the man standing firmly on her side, she felt no trace of warmth in her heart. Seeing that her son was serious, Katie Waldorf finally gave in. Enough. Let's eat first. At the dining table, the only sounds were the clinking of utensils and Katie's occasional scoffs. Christina's hand trembled slightly as she gripped her fork. She knew what was coming. Sure enough, Katie soon put down her fork and said, I won't ask for much, but shouldn't you at least give us a grandchild? You can't just let the family line end here. Lucien immediately set down his fork. I've told you before. Christina is afraid of pain. I won't let her endure such suffering for me. I'd rather remain childless forever. Hearing this, Lucien's parents lost their appetite completely. Just as another argument was about to erupt, Christina spoke up. Half a month. Dad, Mom, in half a month you'll have a grandchild. Her words stunned everyone. Christina. Lucien grasped her hand. We agreed not to have children. You don't have to sacrifice yourself for me. She smiled faintly at his earnest expression. She said they'd have a grandchild, but she never said she would be the one to give birth. Half a month later, she'd be out of the country. Since he loved Vanessa so much and couldn't keep away from her, let her bear his child. She smiled again. It's Dad and Mom's wish. It should be fulfilled. Lucien felt a strange unease seeing how considerate she was being. It felt unnatural. His parents, however, were delighted. That's more like it. Lucien still sensed something was wrong and was about to press further when his phone vibrated. He glanced at the screen and his expression shifted. Sitting close by, Christina caught a glimpse. It was a message from Vanessa. Vanessa. Lucien, a guy asked for my number. Should I give it to him? She silently counted the seconds. 1, 2, 3. On the third second, Lucien stood up. Sorry, Christina. Something came up at the office. Take your time. I'll come back to pick you up later. He didn't even wait for her response before rushing out without his coat. As soon as he left, his parents dropped all pretense and started berating her. How long have you been married? And still no child? Aren't you ashamed? You come from a lowly family. Both your parents are dead. If Lucien didn't like you, do you think you'd ever become Mrs. Waldorf? Marrying you is the worst misfortune of his life. And stop crying. Don't think you can run to Lucien and complain. Every daughter-in-law gets scolded. Don't you dare bother him with your nonsense. They continued scolding her for 5 straight hours. By evening, Lucien finally came back to pick her up. As the car moved smoothly down the road, Christina broke the silence. Did you manage to settle your things at the office? Lucien hesitated, then replied gently, yes. His fingers tapped lightly on the steering wheel, a habit when he was in a good mood. Noticing her silence, he added, my parents didn't make things difficult for you, did they? Just as Christina was about to answer, she spotted something beneath the passenger seat. A torn pair of polka-dot stockings. She already knew he had gone to see Vanessa, but to think they'd done it in the car. In their 5 years of marriage, she had always been conservative about intimacy. Afraid of boring him, she had once asked, blushing, if he wanted her to change. He had held her and kissed her, saying, you're perfect as you are. Even in rags, I'd still be attracted to you. Don't force yourself to be someone you're not. Someone who loves you will always find you irresistible. Yet the man who claimed to love only her had no qualms about indulging in such affairs. Her eyes stung. What do you think? Lucien, oblivious to her discovery, assumed she was upset about his parents. He immediately hit the brakes and pulled her into his arms.
I'm sorry, Christina.
It's my fault. I shouldn't have left you alone. I promise this won't happen again. Held tightly, Christina felt suffocated. She forced back her tears and pushed him away. You should focus on the road. There was no future for them anymore. When they arrived home, Lucien went to park the car while Christina entered the house. She stopped at the doorway, her eyes falling on Vanessa, who was curled up on the sofa in a nightgown, surrounded by snacks and watching TV. Christina paused deliberately and said, Didn't you say you wouldn't be home tonight because of a mixer? Vanessa glanced up, curling her lips into a sly smile. Oh, Christina, I forgot to tell you. I actually had a fight with my boyfriend, so I decided to go to the mixer to make him jealous. She stretched out her neckline, revealing a scatter of hickeys across her skin, then looked at Christina with a provocative gaze. I told him about it, and he didn't seem to care at first. But as soon as I arrived at the party, he showed up and dragged me away. Laughing lightly, she added, I didn't expect him to be so jealous. He went at it with me 3 times in the car. Christina's nails dug into her palms, the sharp sting spreading through her body. She forced herself to breathe and asked, Since when did you have a boyfriend? You never mentioned it. Vanessa tilted her head and smiled lazily. 3 months ago. 3 months ago, that was exactly when Vanessa moved into their home. Back then, she had just started working in the city, and Lucien's best friend had asked him to look after her as a favor. So from the very first day she moved in, she had been entangled with him. Christina's breath quickened, and just as she opened her mouth to speak, a pair of warm hands gripped her shoulders from behind. Lucien's voice was gentle. Christina, you've had a long day. I'll run a bath for you so you can relax, all right? Before she could say anything, he nudged her toward the bathroom. Once inside, Christina started undressing, ready to wash away her exhaustion. But she suddenly realized she had forgotten to bring clean clothes. Opening the door, she froze. Across the room, Lucien was pressing Vanessa down onto the sofa and tugging at her nightgown with a rough urgency. His hands gripped her waist tightly, trailing kisses along her collarbone and downward. Vanessa breathed heavily, her voice lilting. Not so hard. Christina's in the bath. Didn't you have enough in the car? Lucien's movements grew more intense, his breaths ragged, and Vanessa's whimpers turned almost tearful. Shut up, he growled. Don't you dare meet other men again. Vanessa smirked as though she had won, then suddenly locked eyes with Christina, who stood frozen in the doorway. Her gaze sparkled with mischief. Fine, I won't.
I'm yours, okay.
Jealous fool. Unable to bear the sight, Christina grabbed her clothes and shut the bathroom door. Sinking into the water, her mind spun with the image she had just witnessed. 5 years ago, during their honeymoon on a tropical island, he had sulked just because she glanced at a shirtless man on the beach. He had dragged her back to the presidential suite and kept her there for 7 days. By the end, they'd run out of strawberry-flavored rubbers, and the bed had collapsed. Holding her tightly afterward, his eyes had reddened. Christina, I have everything they have. Don't look at other men. Don't leave me. It took endless reassurances before his jealousy subsided. Since then, she never dared look at another man. But now he was just as crazed for Vanessa. Christina surfaced from the water, taking a deep breath. When she stepped out of the bathroom, Lucien was alone in the room. On the table, there was a plate of freshly cut fruit and a steaming cup of tea. Seeing her, Lucien quickly handed her the cup with a warm smile. I checked your cycle. Your period's coming soon, so I prepared this for you. It'll ease the pain. Drink it while it's hot. Christina held the cup, feeling no warmth from it. She couldn't understand how he could act so devoted, fresh from another woman's arms. The question gnawed at her, keeping her awake all night. Just as she was about to drift off, Lucien stirred beside her. Suddenly he shouted her name. Christina! He woke in a panic, groping blindly until he found her. Pulling her into his arms, his voice trembled. Don't leave me. Christina stiffened. What's wrong? His eyes reddened. I had a nightmare. I dreamt you left me. But it was just a dream. You're still here. Lowering her eyes, Christina swallowed her words. Soon I won't be. Maybe it was that dream that spooked him. But the next day, Lucien insisted on taking her to work with him. Christina refused, but he pleaded until she gave in. Once in his office, she noticed it was filled with photos of her. Seeing her stare, he wrapped his arms around her from behind, rubbing his face against her neck. A lot of women try to get close to me, but these photos help keep them away. Don't worry, baby. I'm very faithful. Christina lowered her eyes, saying nothing. Just then his assistant knocked, reminding him of a meeting. Reluctantly, Lucien let go of her and told her to look around while he worked. Christina wasn't in the mood to explore, But she didn't want to stay in his office either. So she wandered through each floor. Around noon, her phone rang. It was Immigration Services. "Miss Mason, we need you to come in and sign one more document for your immigration application." Just as she was about to respond, a familiar voice came from behind her. "What immigration?" Lucien asked.